All right, let's dive right in. Making a film is kind of the ultimate magic trick. You're taking this messy, chaotic idea bouncing around in your head and somehow transforming it into a polished, cohesive experience on screen. In today's Explainer, we are going to uncover exactly how that transformation happens. So, here's the million-dollar question we've all thought about at some point. Why do some projects feel like this beautifully choreographed dance, while others just evolve into stressful, money-hemorrhaging nightmares? A lot of people assume the difference is a massive budget, or maybe having the absolute newest, fanciest camera. But the truth? The gear actually has very little to do with it.
The real secret is the workflow. Now, I know workflow sounds like some dry corporate buzzword, but stick with me. It is literally the ultimate antidote to production disasters. It's the essential framework that ensures you aren't just starting a piece of art, but that you're actually finishing it.
In this explainer, we're going to trace that exact journey from start to finish. We'll start with the macro filmmaking roadmap, dive deep into development and pre-production, explore the chaos of production and post, look at distribution, see the workflow in action with a real example, and finally wrap up with how to avoid those common beginner mistakes. Okay, starting off with Section 1, the filmmaking roadmap. And the cool thing here is whether you're shooting a massive Hollywood feature or just a quick local commercial, every single successful project uses this exact same map. Think of these 5 stages as absolute, non-negotiable milestones: development, pre-production, production, post-production, and distribution. Skipping any one of these, that pretty much guarantees delays, mistakes, and a lot of frustration. They have to happen, and they have to happen in order. Moving right along to Section 2, development and pre-production. This is where we build the foundation of the house, long before a camera is ever touched. Stage 1 is development, moving from a raw idea to an actual story. Honestly, this is where most films actually die, and for good reason. You have to ask yourself the really difficult questions right off the bat. Why does this story matter, and who actually cares about it? During development, you are literally pressure testing your concept. You're conducting thorough research, you're shaping that narrative arc, and you're clearly defining your target audience. You're basically doing everything you can to ensure the story is rock solid before you spend a dime. Once that story is finally locked in, we hit Stage 2, pre-production. The golden rule here is simple but crucial. Plan before you shoot. This entire phase is dedicated to saving your 2 most precious resources down the line, which are time and money. This is where the heavy lifting really happens. I'm talking writing scripts, storyboarding, budgeting, casting, and figuring out mundane but critical things like how to feed a hungry crew of 30 people on a random Tuesday. The real problem solving happens here, on paper. It absolutely should not happen while a bunch of people are standing around on set waiting for you to make a decision. All right, on to Section 3, production and post-production. This is the part everyone loves, bringing the whole thing to life. Stage 3 is production. The cameras are finally rolling. But here's a wild fact. While this is what everyone pictures in their head as making a movie, it's actually the shortest stage of the entire workflow. Your success here relies 100% on how well you prepped in Stage 2. This stage takes incredibly coordinated teamwork. Directors are guiding performances, cinematographers are capturing the images, sound teams are recording pristine audio. Everyone is simply executing that meticulous plan you made. You aren't making things up on the fly here. You're just building out the blueprint. Then we hit Stage 4, post-production. There's this brilliant old industry saying that you rewrite your film for the 3rd and final time in the edit. This is the magical part where thousands of disconnected, totally out-of-order shots are wrestled into a single, flowing, emotional story. Your editors build that initial timeline, but then it needs to breathe. You mix the audio, you add the emotional weight of a musical score, you color correct the raw images to make them look beautifully cinematic, and you drop in any visual effects. You are taking raw, rigid materials and molding them into a final experience. Which brings us to Section 4, distribution to the audience. Because let's be real, a film isn't truly finished until someone actually watches it. Stage 5 is all about distribution, actually sharing your story. The primary job of any finished film is to reach out into the world and connect with its intended viewers. A film only really fulfills its purpose when it creates a reaction in an audience. And today, the distribution channels are just amazingly diverse. You might aim for traditional cinemas or television, sure, But you also have massive streaming services, film festivals, educational platforms, and of course, YouTube. You have to know where your specific audience lives so you can deliver the film right to their doorstep. Let's look at Section 5, the workflow in action, to really ground all this theory into reality. Imagine we're making a really simple short film about a grandfather teaching his grandson to harvest grass. First week, you research the tradition. Week 2, you outline and storyboard it. Only then, in week 3, do you go out and film them in the field. Week 4, you edit the footage and add the music. Finally, week 5, it goes on YouTube to find its audience. You see, every single step naturally unlocks the next one.
Finally, Section 6, avoiding common filmmaking mistakes, because it is so easy to fall into the traps when you're just starting out.
It really comes down to a tale of two shoots. Skip the planning phase because you're just so eager to pick up a camera, and you're going to end up with total confusion on set and a terrible result. But if you put the grueling work into development and pre-production, you yield an efficient shoot and a remarkably better story. It is quite literally chaos versus creative success.
There's this incredibly powerful industry insight that sums this up. Professional filmmakers don't think of a film as a collection of scenes. They think of it as a process. Every single decision, from that very first light bulb moment to the final export button, serves the audience. The workflow isn't there to restrict your creativity, it's a shield that protects your vision. By embracing this workflow, you empower yourself to actually finish what you start, and to do it brilliantly. But remember, the whole machine kicks off at stage 1. It all starts with that initial spark. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative question to think about. Where do great film ideas actually come from? Keep that question in mind, because that is exactly where your next learning journey begins.